come to know, you'll come to know that yes, these issues are present around us, but we don't ever go for it. So let me introduce myself. My name is Pratik Thakre. I'm associate security consultant at Payatu. I'm a SINAC Red Team member with level 3. A noob. Why a noob? Because it's always good to be empty, and a lifetime learner. So this is a short disclaimer. First of all, I'm not an expert. I'm a learner like you all. I may have spoken something which you feel like should have been more accurate. So please bear with it, as I'm not an expert. And thoughts and views presented in this talk are of my own and does not necessarily represent any organization. So this will be our agenda for today. We'll be briefing what business logic vulnerabilities are, how to start, what are the hidden gems we have. Then sometimes like it's only about the flow. How can we find the bugs within the flow? And we know that client side controls are often weak, so we can target those. Then how can you target the prominent features present in the application? And lastly, we'll be concluding by what's the moral of the story, how should we proceed. So let's begin. First of all, let's get introduced to what business logic vulnerabilities are. So I'll start with a very naive approach. What we'll do is we'll consider an application. So every application out there has a purpose. It has a purpose of what it will serve, which type of users will it serve, what business will it have. Like with purpose, there is an associated business. We all know that. So if there's a banking application, there is an associated business to carry out transactions, to give loan to the users, to manage funds, etc. So to carry out this business, that application has implemented some underlying logic. This logic can be abused to cause some unintended behavior. And this is the place where business logic issues takes birth. So an application with a purpose, having some logic, and we can abuse that logic to get our business logic vulnerabilities. So how it starts, how to get started. Is there like any way we have to follow? No, basically it's a naive approach. So what we'll do, I have split it into 3 steps which I follow when I hunt for business logic vulnerabilities. First is finding purpose, then understanding the application, and the third one is the heat is always at the core. So we'll see what finding purpose means. As I talked in first slide, where we introduced business logic vulnerabilities, I told that every application has a purpose. So before hunting, before trying to be offensive when you're getting into that application, you'll have to find out the purpose, what the application is serving. So we have banking websites which are serving the purpose of managing money, loans, digital funds, then your cards, etc. Applications like Teams and Slack are helping you to communicate. So if we look carefully and precisely, there is always a purpose. Even you're in your life, you're living your life with a purpose. So understanding the purpose of the application helps you understand the underlying business logic. So if you come to know, okay, this is a banking website, so you can always play with the amounts, carry out transactions, which would lead to financial losses. If you're working on applications like Teams and Slacks, so there you can see if you can access the chat of other people or not. So these are type of test cases you can build up when you know the purpose of the application. So this ultimately helps you understand what's the underlying logic and how should I proceed with it. Next is understanding the application. Okay, so first start very naively. Okay, so for example, if you want to be the good programmer of any operating system, say we'll consider Linux operating system. If you want to develop uh, programs like Linux drivers, you want to develop your own kernel, you'll have to be first a good user of the operating system. Then only you'll understand, okay, I use these functions and this is how these were implemented, when you learn about those functions. So don't start offensive. Get into the application as much as you can. Browse the application as a normal user and find the purpose of every functionality. Every functionality out there has a purpose, why it for that only it is built, right? So find that purpose. What is the use of this functionality? So there are many functionalities which need data to be populated from various sources within that application itself. So try to populate that data. Until and unless you will not be able to make a great use of this functionality. So use the application as much as you can. Be a good user first. The next is, the heat is always at the core. This goes with our earth too. We know that the core, which is the central part of the earth, is the hottest part. Okay. So the deep you go, the more heat you get, right? Similarly, it goes parallelly with the application too. The more deeper understanding of the application we have, the more are the chances we find the bug. So get into the depth of application and understand every feature, each and every feature, even the small feature out there, even the small button. Browse through every functionality. Learn the purpose of every page, button, feature, etc. Whatever is there in the application, click every links, go to every tab, study the flow of data. While you're doing this, keep your burp on. Study the flow of data, how the data is flowing from one request, where it is getting populated. Then observe the flow of request, what kind of requests are going for this particular action. So you can observe, like, okay, if I am updating something, which type of request, put, patch, what data, JSON body, or it is going in a www URL encoded. So just look at those. From here, just go on deep as much as you can and increase the power of observation. The more you observe, the more are the chances that you'll find the bugs. The next is hidden gems. So I guess many of you might be ignoring the documentation or the help section which is present on the application. We often do it, like we are only with the purpose that, okay, we'll find bug, that's why we ignore it. But believe me, many of the bugs which I have found and reported on the platforms, the documentation helped me a lot. How it helped me? It gave, first of all, it gave me the good understanding of how the application works. It gave me understanding of, okay, these are the extra features of this particular feature. So a feature can have various types of functionalities, and in those functionalities can have many other features too. So documentation helps there. You if there's no documentation, some applications have the help section, the help button, the question mark button out there. You can just go to that button and see, okay, this is the functionality, it has these many components, these many users can use it. So from there, just start some thinking offensive, a bit offensive. Then you'll come to know that, okay, this is the function. Then you'll start building your test cases in your mind. Also, when you report any vulnerability, the documentation serve as a proof of your claims. So if you're saying this user is not supposed to do this, or this user or this type of functionality is not intended to work like this, what is the claim you have? What kind? Where is the proof of that? You can, for if there are no documentation, then you can directly say, see, from UI, from the normal flow, you can do this. But there might be chances that you might be working on the other side, you might be seeing it from the other side, and that person, the company people might be seeing it from other side. So the bug may not be valid at that time. But if there's a documentation, you can claim on basis that, see, you have written this in the documentation and this is the behavior I have found out. So this is where you'll start exploring what you'll start exploring the application, and you'll see how business logic can get into. So from here, what you'll do is you'll start developing test cases on your own. Okay, it is mentioned in the documentation. I'll go beyond that. I'll go against it. Just try to go beyond the normal, or I would say just try to go against the normal. The next is, sometimes it's only about the flow. So in many application we observe that we have a flow of something. So for example, if I want to onboard an user in my application, say it's a HR application or any type of application, so what I'll have to do, I'll have to fill its detail, then I'll have to give the permissions that person will have on my portal, and then I'll have to invite him, then the person will register. Okay, so these kind of a specific flow is defined. This was just an example of flow. So what developers think is, okay, if I am deciding this flow while developing an application, users will always follow the flow. But that's a myth. When it comes to hunting, when you're pen testing that application, you have to go beyond the flow. You have to always try to break the flow. So there are many test cases with the flow related to authentication vulnerabilities also. Like if your application has a 2FA, okay, and after login, the login response gives you 302 redirect to 2FA page. So if you change the response and directly go to dashboard, will it take you? So that will be a 2FA bypass. So these kind of flow, you'll have to build in business logic vulnerabilities also. You'll have to break them. And how will you find? By analyzing the flow of request. Analyze how every request goes when you're browsing the application. See, that particular feature is sending how many requests, what is the flow of request. Okay, first it will send a get request to fetch the page, then it will send get request to APIs to populate the data, then it will send post or put or patch request if you're updating it. So try to analyze this flow and see if you can break them. Also have a look at how the data flows from each of them. So from say a get request might return a HTML page which might have a CSRF token. So this CSRF token will be fetched by a successive post or put request and be put in that. So here you can analyze the flow of data is getting the response, the CSRF token from the get request, from the response of the get request, fetching the CSRF token and storing it in some local variable, and then sending it with the post request. So this is how you analyze the flow of the application. So let's have a scenario here. So I encountered a bug where when I was hunting. So what was the scenario? Basically, the website where I was hunting the program was a banking website. Okay, so the banking website, and actually this was a very old program. And since like it was the last bug reported I saw was on 2020, and I reported my bug in 2021. Okay, so for the 6 or 7 period of time, this there was no one who has reported anything on this. Okay, so and now there were two endpoints. One was authenticated, where they had given us the credentials, you can log in and check, and other one was unauthenticated, where you will have to request a new account registration. So new account registration was basically a form wherein you'll have to fill all your details to get account registered on that banking website. So the kind of details it asked for was your personal details, then your identity details. Then it also asked me for loan details, if you have any loans or not. It asks me what's your nationality and all. Then it also asks me if you want to keep any like holder to your account, who will be managing your account with you. So these kind of details it asked. So that account registration, I observed that there was a information page. Okay, so this was basically a 10 step 8 to 10 step form. Okay, each on each page, when you enter the details, you'll have to click next and you can go. After one step, I observed that when you entered your information like identity details, for identity details it asked for a passport number or SSN number, social security number. Okay, so when it asked it, after that step, it says please review your information before clicking on submit. Okay, so when I went to the review information page, it gave me a edit button over here. So it says that before submitting, if you want to edit any information, you can edit it. After submitting the information, it says processing identity information, and you can notice this particular message here: please wait while we verify your identity. Okay, so this message clearly says that they are verifying your identity at this particular phase of the application. Identity on the basis of the information which you provided in earlier phases, on the basis of the SSN number, on basis of passport number, anything it can be. And this is very crucial for bank application. Okay, so just keep a note of this here. Then after moving on to the same information page, you can see the edit button has gone. So that means after verifying your identity, the application has stored a checkpoint and it doesn't allow you to edit your basic information anymore. So I had the post request where the information was updated in my burp suite. I just replayed it and the information got updated. Okay, so what's the impact here? If the application has some central database or is connected to some central database which is fetching your information from your SSN number or passport number, verifying it, and then allowing you to move further. Okay, this can be bypassed. What a user can do, user can enter some sort of legitimate information first if you want to grade, bypass this stage, and then update it to information which he doesn't want to. Okay, so if the application forbids some SSN number to create account on that particular portal, so what he'll do, he'll enter the SSN number of his friend, get it verified, and then change it to his. That can be the case here. So impact can be override the verified details. Crucial issue for banking application. Attacker can update details at any point. This last point I like to emphasize on this, at any point. So if the application is submitted, same after last stages, it says that we are verifying your application. You will be informed once we are verified. So say in the backend, if they have manual verification also, and if they have 5 to 10 stages, what an attacker can do or a malicious user can do, he can change the data at every point of time. So for example, stage 1 employee sees some other data, and between that time the attacker changes it, stage 2 employee will see some other data. So there will be discrepancies between the two, and it will lead to creation of account which they shouldn't have allowed to. So similar case I observed was on another platform which was giving you medical insurance, and I observed that this medical insurance was having the same kind of flow. I tested it, and it also said that we are verifying your identity. So I saw that okay, it is also having the same kind of behavior, and I reproduced the issue again by following the same steps. These kind of issues are present out there. what you have to do is analyze the flow, and you'll have to try that if you can break the flow. Okay, as you can see in the previous slide, where I showed you, the information was the edit button was restricted, but I was able to edit it. How it happened? By analyzing the flow of request, by seeing, okay, when I update the information, this is the post request. What I have, what if I just replay it with information updated, will it get updated after this step? Okay, so I guess so far so good. Anuv, am I audible clear right now, right?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah, yeah, okay, I'll move ahead. Okay, so next is, do you really it's a question to developer, do you rely on client side controls only? Okay, so when we rely on client side controls, what we yield is the weak client side control itself. Okay, so many times restrictions are only on the front end. You can observe that, okay, this particular field is prohibited to edit, this particular field is this particular button is prohibited, you do not have permission to do this. But if you try to reproduce the issue while observing at the request, you'll observe that the the control or the restriction was on only on the front end. So when you are observing the request, try to change every bit of data which is restricted from the front end. If you are able to change, then work on the impact. In business logic, what matters most is the impact. How will you impact? And convincing the triager on what are the impact is a very crucial thing. So if you have a good understanding of how the application works, how the application is behaving, what is the flow it is following, and what kind of vulnerability have you found, you'll be able to form and write a good impact. Talking about the client side controls, we have another scenario over here. I was testing a website which was basically a HR management portal. This portal was for organizations, uh, and it allowed, like, your organization might also have some HR management where your HR would have created your account, and you will be able to see your finances, your taxes, and other information about your organization, etc. This particular HR management portal had a personal information page where it showed the information related to that particular user. So when the user visited his personal information page, it showed that what supervisor this user was assigned to. Okay, so for example, I work in a company, and then some supervisor is assigned to me. So the name of the supervisor will be shown here, and as you can see, this particular field is darkened out, which means that this is restricted, you cannot change it. So obviously you cannot change your own supervisor. Only the admin or the organizational management level people have to have the authority to do so. So in this application, this was the client side control which they enforced. Again, looking at the request carefully, it had a supervisor ID, and that supervisor ID can be changed. When we click on, say, I change some of the information in my profile, and I clicked on save, a put request went, and which had this supervisor ID. I changed the supervisor ID to some other supervisor's ID, and it got changed. The supervisor for that particular user was changed. What's the impact here? User can change his own supervisors. Okay, so sometimes organizations, like whenever for example, whenever you have a Slack or a team sort of application, there when you want to approach some manager or some higher level authorities, you see who is the supervisor of this particular person. Say you want to have like there's an organizational structure or tree created. Okay, this particular thing, this particular bug was able to break that tree, cause discrepancies in that tree. It also impacted the access control rules imposed. What was the access control here? Normal user should not be able to change his supervisor. So sometimes you can portray the business logic issues as access control also. So these are basically client side controls and you can bypass them. Just look for the request, look for the correct data to hit, look for the correct data to change. Then there was one more scenario which I encountered. So the application which I was testing was a train ticket booking portal. So it had uh, like it listed the destination and the source stations, and like it had some kind of pre allotted uh, ticket validity dates, for example 7 days or 24 hours. So user has to pick from that. So for example, you picked a 24-hour ticket. It showed that the end of validity for this ticket is correctly after 8 correctly after 1 day. You can see the 7/11/2021 is there, and this is 18/11/2021. This is the end of validity. Start of validity, you can determine when you want to start the tickets validity, and end of validity will be correctly after 24 hours of this, after this. Okay, so what's the issue here now? When it was when the user booked the ticket, it had a valid until parameter in its post request. Okay, so if I change the date here, will it work? That was the question which I asked myself when I was hunting on this particular platform. And yes, it worked. For a 24-hour ticket for two people, it showed like this. I was able to uh, change the date of expiry and push it ahead to so many days. So these kind of issues, again, weak client side controls. Okay, so here what you have to observe is you'll have to dig into deep into the functionality of what is that. What can be the impact over here? You're paying for a 24-hour ticket and you're getting it validated to these many days. This is the most and the largest impact to the website which has built this. So you'll have to just pay a 24-hour a 24 hour charges and you'll get the ticket for these many days. If the application, if the what we say, the station masters or anyone who is viewing the ticket and validating them through this particular application only. Then next, there's one more scenario uh, on a client side control over here. Okay, this was also a banking website. Now this banking website, I observed it was somewhat different from others. Why it was different? It had different types of account. What different types of account? Some accounts were entitled only for loan. So for example, if you have taken a loan, you'll have to take a loan against that account. So if you have taken a loan against that account, you'll have to only deposit to that account and you cannot withdraw from that account. So these kind of restrictions were imposed in that application. Now there was a business logic behind it, because they wanted the user to pay the loan amount or the EMI at a regular point, and they did not allow to withdraw uh, money from that loan account. So some of them, as I discussed, some of them were only entitled for one-way transaction. When user tried to do a transaction using that account, it says that you cannot transfer from this account. So what I did is I tried to transfer from the loan amount. I tried to loan account. I tried to withdraw money from the loan account. So it says this, you cannot transfer from this account. But again, it was a client side control. Post request contained account numbers. I changed them and the transfer was initiated. So here the business logic imposed by the application, by the company, that okay, I'll allow only transfer or credit into the loan account and will not allow withdraw, was bypassed here, just due because of the weak client side controls it has. Okay. Now moving on to targeting features in application. So as I discussed, every application has a wide range of features. When you see that this particular feature is there, so in the previous slides, in the previous scenarios also, if you have observed, there were those were the features which I targeted. The first feature was in the train ticketing system. The first feature was a 24-hour ticket or a specific time limited tickets. The next feature in the banking website was having transfers between the having withdrawal from the loan account. So when you get these features, when you'll be able to see these features in front of you, but you'll not understand them, you'll not know them until and unless you work on them, until and unless you use those features. So you'll have to deeply look in the features, and there can be many test cases, many test cases to abuse that functionality. Okay, some features, as I told in the earlier slide itself, that some features show their full power when data is provided. Try to populate this data, try to see from where this data comes, try to see which particular other features in the application are populating data or are helping to populate this data. Read the document related to the feature. The document is the gem. I would suggest to read the document at every point where you are stuck. And at last, try to become a good user of the application first. Until and unless you understand a feature, you'll not be able to target it for abusing and then finding a vulnerability in it. We'll discuss the scenario related to how a feature abuse can lead to some malicious impact. So the site which I was testing was a patient management portal. It collected some personal and medical data, uh, and that data was related to, like, it was like, you are a patient, for example, and you go and register on that particular website. You give your details, what kind of disease or anything you have. The website will find a right doctor for you, and it will assign the doctor, and you can have consultation with the doctor, book an appointment, and so and so. So the flow here was, the application collected the personal data, and it asked a consent of the user to share the data. So when I filled or I applied on that application, there was a consent form. It says that you haven't signed the consent form yet. Please sign it before we could share your details to the doctor. It restricted me from moving further without signing the consent form. So once the consent form was signed, there it just listed the message, the consent form is signed. And if you visit the URL of the consent form, you'll not be able to edit it or save it again or anything. And you'll see your signature which you provided there. So this was the normal flow of the application. But in one request, I observed that the signature was sent in form of a data. It allowed, it provided you with a scratch pad, and you can scribble over there, or you can just put your sign over there in the consent form. So when we clicked on save or send consent, the application sent this kind of data, and this particular data had a image of which was encoded in base 64. What I did is I just removed this signature, the total signature, and sent an empty body, and I observed that the consent was revoked when the same endpoint was hit with the empty body. So this can be like, this was a feature that you'll have to provide a consent, you'll have to sign the consent, and then only will provide will give the data to the doctor. So why this might be used, I suppose at that time, like that okay, the website might be taking a stand to that if the user files some complaint related to the data leak or something, they can show that this is the consent you have signed. Okay, so here you can directly revoke the consent. So if anything happens, you can revoke the consent. So this is the business logic which they implemented, and we using this functionality will we were able to revoke the consent given. This resulted in a good impact, as the application was related to medical, and medical data is somewhat personal to many people. Okay, I'll discuss one more scenario over here. The report ID 1463028. It's a HackerOne report. You can just go and visit it. It got disclosed yesterday only. So basically, I was working on a doc management platform. In that doc management platform, I observed that there was a feature to add shortcuts. Okay, but before that, I observed that the super admin or the admin of that particular platform can delete any doc. Say there's a doc management platform. I invite 2 to 3 people. I am the admin of that application. Those 2 to 3 people share the doc, create doc on that application. But as I'm the admin, I have the authority to delete any doc. I go in the admin panel and delete that doc. So this particular application had this functionality, and what was the result of that? When we delete the doc, no user was able to access, even view the doc. Even the owner of the doc was not able to view it. It said that this particular doc is deleted. But then I observed that there was a functionality to create a shortcut of the doc and add it to a folder. So what I did, I just went into my space. I from any of the user account, I shared that doc with me, and I created a shortcut of that doc in a folder. You can create a folders over there, and you can add a shortcut to that particular folder. I created that folder. Then I went to the admin panel, deleted that doc. When I clicked on the shortcut link, it again said that this particular document is deleted and you cannot and the portal did not even allow me to view or download it. Okay, what I did is I right clicked on that folder, and there was an option to download the folder itself. I downloaded that folder as a zip, and when I downloaded the folder as a zip and opened the zip, I observed that the file which it said on the portal is deleted and you cannot view it, even though it is if as it was deleted by the admin. I observed that the zip contained that particular file. So here the deleted file also gets downloaded. So I suppose there was a logic that when it was downloading the contents within the folder, it was recursively it was recursively resolving that shortcut, and it was storing that shortcut those files in that particular folder, and that folder gave us that file. So this was the issue. You can have a look at the report. I have discussed the scenario over here. Then next, at last, we move on to what is the moral of the story. To security researchers, I would say dig deeper as much as you can. all the issues which I have found are the result of the depth, or the result, uh, or the extent to which I went into the application, I understood the application. Be a good user of the application first. Until and unless you understand how the application works, what the functionality is doing, what is the purpose of application, what each feature has a significance, how a feature is impacting other feature, you cannot get into the application, and you will never understand the application. Read the documentation when it is needed, understand the features from those documentation. Last but not the least, think different. Different from anyone else, because logic is the only thing which cannot be taught. You can learn other technical things, but you cannot teach anyone with the logic. It comes with practice, it comes with drilling each and everything, and it comes when you understand the issues better, you understand the functionality better rather. uh, a note to the developers, if there are any: never assume that the user will follow the normal flow only. And as always, this goes apply check on server side too. And make sure that the application logic goes parallel to the one mentioned in the documentation. So sometimes what happens is, some documentation say, okay, this user should not have permission to do this, but it from the front end only they have provided it. So this is where those both clash. And documentation is created, if you observe the CI/CD pipeline, the documentation is created in accordance with the developers also have a look at it, even the QA have a look at it, and then the documentation is finalized. So whenever a documentation is created, I would say that just see if they are going in parallel with the functionalities which you have developed. And sometimes try to get in the shoes of the attacker too. You can visualize the thing, you can visualize the impact if you get in the shoes of the attacker. Oh, thank you. This was it. If you want to connect with me, you can connect me with me on these links. I'm open for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Pratik, for a wonderful session. It was really awesome, and the test cases or the scenario which you told, it really gives us the feel of the scenario. Thank you for this. I hope
Yeah,
our
thank you.
participants have got some new techniques to apply in their workflow. Really, it was awesome. So,
Yeah.
guys, if you have any questions, yeah, Pratik, continue.
There are some questions in chat box. I'll just read it out. Bro,
Yeah,
also
yeah.
tell us what could be the countermeasures taken to avoid these flows. So it's rock Raghu. Can you tell me, you're asking this from the developer side perspective? Yeah, okay. So countermeasures can be like it depends from each scenario. You have observed that I listed, I talked about 5 to 6 scenarios. Those scenarios were very different in their own. Okay. So countermeasures, like it depends on the QA who tests the logic. If there's an internal pen test team, then they'll have to build that sort of logic, that sort of test cases, those sort of test cases that they find out. Because what developers do is, I have developed, I'm also a developer, not that much, but when I developed application, we think only about implementing the functionality. Okay. And if you're a developer and also a pen tester, you'll realize that when a developer is developing the application, he'll only think about implementing the functionality, and later on he'll recognize, oh, I left a bug over there. So countermeasures are like, those are very they those cannot be generalized, but you'll have to, the developers will have to also, as the last point suggested, uh, put yourself in the shoes of the attacker. That's the only thing I could suggest. Hope this answers. Insecure design can be a business logic. Uh, Actually, according to Portswigger, I read the definition of business logic. Um the flaws or anything in the design itself lead to business logic. So it can be said that insecure design can be a business logic. Session is recorded and where we'll get it. Maybe Anubhav can answer that.
Yes, yes, we have recorded the session and the session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. Stay connected with our Twitter handle. You will get the notification there.
Yeah, there's a question from SM. If the original file was deleted, then how the data was available in the shortcut file? So I should have mentioned over there, the file was not deleted permanently. It was moved to trash, and that trash, particular trash, was only available to admin of that user, of that organization. Even the normal user cannot access that trash. Can we get the slides? Yes, I'll upload the slides and share the link.
I think
Yeah,
everyone loved today's session.
yeah, thank you. So do we have any more questions? Thanks for being such a great audience. Okay, in the transfer amount from account vulnerability, yes, SM. Yes, Rock Raghu, you are right. Like this, these kind of parameters, like the banking website critical, they have a unique tokens to verify that. But the things, the issues which I found were accepted, and they were the changes were pushed as an when I reported it. Can you share some good website where we can practice client side vulnerabilities? Actually, I don't have any, but I would suggest Portswigger is the best if it has client side issues. And client side issues don't need practice. You just go and see what is restricted or what is there in the client side. For issues like accesses and all, you'll have to obviously practice on. I would suggest there are many labs over there. Portswigger is the best one. Please share the link of the record.
Yes, anyone who wants the recording and all, I have shared our Twitter handle link. You can connect with us there. And we will share
Uh, yeah.
the recording.
SM, the question you're asking, yes, the amount was debited from the loan account itself, and I was able to uh, like impact the business which was imposed, that you cannot debit from loan account. Uh, okay. Thank you. So, Anubhav, can we end the session?
Yes, yes, sure. Okay, guys, thank you for attending today's session. We will meet you all in next session, which will be on next month. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.